The sands of the arena have long since settled. Cheers that once echoed off stone walls have faded into silence. Yet the fascination with the gladiatorial games, with the clash of man against man, man against beast, life against death, has never disappeared. It lingers in our stories, in our imaginations, and in the very way we understand courage, skill, and mortality. From the first known moon era in 264 BC, staged during funeral rites in Rome, gladiatorial combat captivated spectators with a blend of athleticism and spectacle. These early fights were private, solemn, and ritualistic, offerings to honor the dead. But over centuries, the games evolved into something much larger, public events designed to enthrall the masses, to provoke, to hold the attention of a city that had grown large, complex, and often unruly. What is it about the gladiator that continues to captivate us? Perhaps it is the human story at its heart. Every fighter had a life outside the arena, a past, a family, a set of dreams that may have been crushed by circumstance. Some were slaves, prisoners of war, or criminals condemned to fight. Others were volunteers, drawn to the arena by the promise of fame, prize money, or a fleeting chance at freedom. Each brought a distinct style, a distinct identity, and a distinct narrative to the sand. Imagine the careful preparation before a fight. Gladiators trained in Ludi, schools where instructors, often former fighters themselves, honed not just physical skill but strategy, timing, and endurance. Their weapons were precise, their movements choreographed, yet always balanced with the unpredictability of battle. Unlike the modern stage, there were no rehearsals for life and death. Every misstep could be fatal. Spectators watched closely. In the Colosseum, inaugurated in 80 AD under Emperor Titus, a crowd of 50,000 could witness a single duel. Their cheers, their gasps, and their silence could shape the outcome. A skilled fighter who seemed to struggle could, with a clever maneuver, turn the tide, and the crowd's reaction might save his life or seal his fate. In this interaction, there is a timeless drama. The struggle of the individual under the gaze of the collective, and the delicate balance between skill, luck, and perception. It was not just brute force that fascinated the Romans. Technique, cunning, and endurance were celebrated. The retiarius, wielding a net and trident, had to anticipate the attack of the heavily armored secutor. The murmillo, protected with helmet and shield, relied on strength and defensive skill to outlast the opponent. Each match was a story, a narrative of strategy, courage, and human ingenuity unfolding before thousands of eyes. Yet it is impossible to separate the thrill of combat from its shadow, death. The arena was, for many, a place where life and mortality were brought into sharp focus. Every fight carried the possibility of injury or death, yet this danger was precisely what made it compelling. The crowd did not merely watch skill. They witnessed the precariousness of life itself. This tension, universal and enduring, is perhaps why the fascination persists even today. Beyond the physicality of the combat, there was the spectacle, an artistry of theater and performance. Gladiatorial games often included parades, elaborate costume displays, and mock battles. Condemned criminals might be forced to enact mythological tales, playing the parts of heroes and villains, only to meet their fate as part of the story. The line between life and art blurred. In this way, the arena was more than a battlefield. It was a stage upon which human emotion, skill, and mortality converged. In the mosaic floors of villas in Pompeii and across North Africa, we still see these stories frozen in time. Gladiators in combat, beasts in mid-lep, and crowds in animated discussion. All captured in stone and tile, mortalizing the drama for generations that would never set foot in an arena themselves. Even poets like Martial and Juvenal wrote about them, reflecting the cultural tension between admiration, fear, and moral unease. And perhaps it is precisely this combination, human skill, mortal danger, is in the interplay of strategy and spectacle that has allowed the gladiator to endure in our collective imagination. Across centuries and cultures, we have retained a fascination for figures who risk everything for glory, who perform under pressure, and who embody both vulnerability and courage. In this first chapter, we see the root of the enduring appeal. It is not the blood alone, nor the violence for its own sake. It is the human story, the individual striving against odds, the skill honed to perfection, the audience drawn into the narrative, and the knowledge that life itself hangs in balance. The arena was a mirror, reflecting the deepest aspects of human fascination, our curiosity about skill, our empathy for the brave, and our awareness of the fragility of life. The gladiatorial games were never merely a form of entertainment. They were a window into the values, priorities, and structure of Roman society. Through the arena, we can observe the ways in which politics, social hierarchy, religion, and public life were intertwined. And we can begin to understand why these spectacles held such enduring power over the people. The games, the social mirror. In the Colosseum, the audience was stratified according to class, status, and citizenship. Senators, equestrians, and prominent magistrates occupied the prime seats close to the action, while women, slaves, and the lower classes were relegated to the upper tiers. Even in their placement, the amphitheater reflected the rigid social order of Rome. Yet, the arena also offered a unique form of equality. For a brief moment, the triumphs and failures of a gladiator could captivate all layers of society alike. The cheers of 1,000 citizens, regardless of rank, could influence the fate of a single fighter. In this sense, the games acted as a pressure valve, allowing the populace to engage in a collective emotional experience, while reinforcing the structures of hierarchy and authority. The emperors understood this power instinctively. From Vespasian to Trajan, lavish games served as a tool of political legitimacy. Providing free spectacles and food to the masses was not merely generosity, it was strategy. By investing in the games, an emperor could display his wealth, demonstrate his capacity to maintain order, and cultivate loyalty among citizens who might otherwise feel disenfranchised or ignored. The poet Juvenal captured this dynamic in his famous critique of Roman society, noting that people were more concerned with panem et circenses, bread and circuses, than with civic responsibility. While the remark was satirical, it highlighted a key lesson. The games were more than a diversion. They were a mechanism for social control, a subtle way to maintain peace and ensure the emperor's authority remained unquestioned. Religion and ritual religion permeated the games, shaping not only the spectacle, but the cultural mindset of Rome. Gladiatorial contests were often held as part of religious festivals, or to honor the gods. Early munera were funeral rites, intended to appease spirits and pay homage to deceased ancestors. Later, the games became linked to state religion and the cult of the emperor, merging civic ritual with entertainment. For example, during the Flavian period, the inauguration of the Colosseum in 80 AD included 100 days of games, combining gladiatorial combat, beast hunts, and public ceremonies. These events were dedicated not only to popular enjoyment, but to divine favor. Reinforcing the notion that the emperor ruled with the god's blessing, the rituals provided moral and spiritual justification for the spectacle, framing life and death combat as a sacred, almost cosmic drama. Through this lens, the arena was more than a place of violence. It was a stage upon which Romans confronted ideas of mortality, honor, and divine justice. Every fight was imbued with symbolism, a human enactment of struggle, courage, and fate. And these stories were preserved in art, literature, and oral tradition for generations. The economics of spectacle of the games also revealed the practical realities of Roman society. Organizing an event in the Colosseum was not a simple affair. Emperors and wealthy magistrates invested vast sums of money to fund fighters, purchase exotic animals, construct elaborate scenery, and feed tens of thousands of spectators. Under Trajan, the Dacian victories were celebrated with games featuring thousands of gladiators and wild animals imported from across the empire. Reports suggest that up to 11,000 animals were killed during a single festival, a staggering logistical feat that required coordination, manpower, and resources that spanned continents. These spectacles provided employment for a wide range of people: trainers, craftsmen, architects, animal handlers, cooks, and performers. In this way, the arena functioned as an economic engine, distributing wealth while simultaneously asserting the power of the state. The games were both a public service and a display of political might, a reminder that Rome could command life, death, and resources on a scale unmatched in the ancient world. Cultural reflections and morality. The gladiatorial games also reveal Roman attitudes toward violence, honor, and the human condition. In a society that valued courage, discipline, and martial skill, the arena became a stage where these virtues could be demonstrated and tested. Defeat in the arena was shameful. Victory brought prestige, sometimes freedom, and lasting fame. Yet the games also reflected the darker side of Roman culture. They normalized extreme violence and conditioned the populace to accept bloodshed as entertainment. Condemned criminals and prisoners of war were often forced to die publicly, reminding citizens of the absolute authority of the state and the fragility of life. This duality, admiration for skill, combined with fascination with suffering, offers an enduring lesson. It reminds us that societies are complex, and that entertainment can serve multiple, often contradictory purposes: delight, education, propaganda, and moral reinforcement. The arena was not simply a place of amusement. It was a microcosm of Roman society itself. The human connection across centuries. Perhaps the most enduring lesson of the games is this: human beings are drawn to stories of struggle, courage, and mortality. The gladiator, standing alone in the sand with the weight of expectation and the gaze of thousands upon him, embodies an archetype that transcends time. From the mosaics of Pompeii to the poems of Martial, from the inscriptions on Colosseum walls to modern films, the fascination with the human drama persists. These stories remind us that even in an ancient, distant world, people experienced the same awe, tension, emotional engagement that we feel today. The games were a mirror held up to Roman society, reflecting not just power and politics, but our shared human experience, the thrill of mastery, the fear of failure, and the tension of life and death. In examining the arena, we learn as much about ourselves as we do about Rome.